Oh my goodness. Is everybody doing all right? Y'all all right? Yeah, that was a fun little deal right there. I liked that deal. We got in just in time to hear a little bit of Amanda and the elevation thing. That was beautiful. I'm very happy about being a part of this thing, and I don't know what I'm doing exactly right now. Um, one second, I remember what I was going to do. I needed to charge my phone. That was what I was. One second, I apologize. This is unprofessional. Oh, all right, all right. We already said hello, I guess. Hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody. My name is David Crowder. I was told to say that because this is being recorded and don't want any confusion later as they're sorting out where to put these workshop sessions on the internet machine or something. Is that where it's going? Thumbs up. Yes. Well, here's what I'm thinking we should do. We have all these people, all of you fine folks. Let me ask. I'm guessing most everyone works in some fashion in the music or arts of the local church. Is that correct? I guess a show of hands would be helpful. Y'all are so quiet. That's weird. So I think we've got this many people in the room. We probably have a bit of knowledge we could share with each other. So it's sort of a flip thing. The Q&A part of this is really well. I'll let you ask questions, but I'll probably ask you questions too. So because I'm in the same boat. So I'm going to tell you context of where I come from, and then you know how to filter my responses later and can go ahead and chalk it up to, oh, the dude was crazy, so that's why he answered that way. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll have a microphone floating around, and hopefully we can just have a little conversation with you. I think it'd be fun. So we'll see what happens. Well, so I grew up in Texarkana, Texas. You're not from there. You wouldn't say that. It's a dead giveaway. There's nothing to whoop about. Well, we were. Are you from there? Oh, you just recognized. Your dad is. No way. What's his name? What is it? But you got to be that way now, huh? It's like we're on the front end of things. You don't even know if you like me yet or not. Come on, let's wait for it. Generosity of spirit be appreciated. All right. So it wasn't Bubba, but what was it really? Really? Jason Collar. Yeah, I don't know him. But it was kind of cool because half of it hung over into Arkansas. There's half in Texas, half in Arkansas. It was split down the middle with a state line. And I barely made it in our fine Republic of Texas, so it was a close call. But so half of it hung. In fact, on our water tower it said twice as nice. So we were proud of this. You know, I don't know what the Anna. I think we were, so close to Louisiana. We were, us folks are Texans are just they want to claim everything. So that's probably what was happening. They just Texark Anna. The Anna would be probably part of the Louisiana thing. Is what I'm thinking. So anyway, grew up in church. My parents were very devout in their faith, and I actually this is the truth. I thought I was born in First Baptist Church's nursery for a long time. Like when I'd get asked, I was like, "Oh, I was born at FBC," and so we were there constantly. Big part of our lives. As you can imagine, it's in the South Bible Belt, very traditional, hymns, organ, that type of setting. In fact, I remember this moment where the secular music got banned from our house, and it was quite traumatic because growing up, I remember riding around in the back seat of my daddy's Thunderbird, and we had four bits of music, eight tracks actually. 4 8-tracks were in rotation, and this is if you, like we can go ahead. Don't ask this question because I'm going to answer it now. Don't ask like what are your musical influences. This is everything I've done that you've been exposed to is traced back to this right here. In rotation was Elvis, Willie Nelson, Olivia Newton-John, and Bill Gaither, and that's all I've done ever. Is that right there? So. Yeah, but then suddenly, Elvis and Willie and Olivia leave us, and they were banned, and I was a clever kid, and so I had convinced him. I had convinced my daddy that Queen was a Christian band, and in fact, he he was our soccer coach, and so he would bring like a jam box to the field as we practiced, and he'd just crank another one bites the dust, just, and we win. We go to Pizza Hut afterwards. He'd go to the jukebox and he'd just dial up another one bites the dust. It was like our theme song. If we lost, hey, we're coming, next week, another one bites the dust playing. Well, there was a Sunday evening where a traveling evangelist was coming through speaking the ills of secular music, how it's warping the minds of their young children today. And wouldn't he know, the first song as example of this is Another One Bites the Dust. And I'm sitting next to my daddy, and that's the most fervent I've ever prayed in my life. No, that's honest too, and it's maybe sad, but it's true. And I was praying, dear Jesus, come back right now, or never let this guy stop talking. Just get something on him and let's let him keep going, and we'll be here for a week and revival happens or something. So instead, my dad hit me in the back of the head with his class ring. But anyway, we went home to talk about it. So didn't have a lot of access to music in our household, so I was always going to friends' houses and listening to. Well, actually, I should say this. If it wasn't for that evangelist, that's when I discovered AC/DC. He played Hell's Bells, and I went, I got to get that. Where do I get that? That's fantastic. So I owe him. So anyway, I wound up, what I thought was going to happen in life, I thought that I was going to take over the family practice. My dad had an insurance agency in Texarkana, and having a nepotistic hookup, I thought, I've got my ends here, so I can go study whatever in college. And I don't know if you can think about this, but me on your front doorstep's knocking and saying, have you thought about your children's future? It looks like a hard sell now, but I could clean up, So I... But oh man, that would have been miserable. So I thought I could study anything I wanted to, and I had grown up playing music in the house. When I was a really small child, we had a piano, and like any interested kid, it made noise, and so apparently I would just beat on it all the time, making the racket, and eventually my mama noticed that she recognized a little tune. She was like, what? And so she thought, we got to get little boy lessons. I hated them the whole time. I hated them because my friends would be out. I remember when daylight savings happened, so it was like, 8 in the evening, but it just still feels like afternoon outside, when the thing flips. And I remember everybody's throwing the Nerf football outside, and I'm having to practice piano, and they're laughing at me through the sliding glass door. And so I hated it, but, oh, Mama, that's for sure. So I wanted to study music in college because it sounded fun, and it wasn't at all. As it's just thinking about it, I can smell the practice room right now. That daggum. So I wound up my junior year of college. Well, actually, I should back up. Sophomore year of college, we had a little family crisis, an extended family, and it sent me off. Growing up in a traditional institutional type setting, I fled the church, basically. I was like, I'm done with this. It doesn't work. I see failure. I see people that don't treat each other like I would expect them to. I was really close, or that this person, Jesus, how he lived and breathed. It seemed so far from what my experience of church was. In fact, my best friend was the son of our music director at the place, so I was always getting all this, the goings-on and the inner workings of the church. I was very up close to it. Very great friends with the youth minister there, who also I owe a huge debt to because he allowed me to play keyboard at some point. And apparently my lessons early on didn't work out so well because he tells it like this. He's Dan Carson, who is Daniel Carson's father, who plays guitar for Chris Tomlin. So he was a very musical family there, and so he probably knew better than me. But when we get to the softer stuff, he'd let me play on the louder stuff. But then he'd say, "Hey Crowder, see that little slidey thing over there on the right side of the keyboard? If you just go ahead and turn that towards the bottom a little bit, no, a little bit." So he'd make me turn it all the way off for the tender things. But he let me fail, and I think things got better after that. But I can't remember what I was talking about. I go to school to study music, and had left the church basically. Still didn't give up on this guy Jesus, but I just was done with the institutional experience that I had been around. And I was sitting on the porch of my apartment complex, and this guy by the name of Chris C., who's now a pastor down in Ecclesia. Some of you guys might know Robbie C's music. It's his older brother. Robbie leads at his church down in Houston. But anyway, we're sitting on the front porch. We're in undergrad there together, and he knew my little story and the arc to it, and he was at the time doing an itinerant pastorate role outside of town, and this is Waco, Texas, which is not. Yeah, I mean, it's already hick enough, but it's this little town, Gatesville, is about 30 minutes outside of town, and there's about, I think, like 12 people live there or something, and he's at this church. And he's telling me these stories about his experience there. For instance, one of them was, so I got a call last night at 2 a.m, and one of my congregants needed me to come out to the place. The pastor, we got a problem. Can you come out here? And we need some prayer. And he's like, absolutely, I'll be there. So he goes out there, and he says, so what's going on? And they said, well, our cow is sick, and we would like for you to lay hands on him and pray for him. And so he's telling about chasing the cow around the pen, trying to touch it long enough to make a prayer come out. And so it's just, he's using humor to sort of disarm me. I know he played me completely looking backwards, but so he's using this humor thing, but still, this story God in the middle of it. And then he starts like making these propositional statements, or just a lot of what if statements. Well, what if David Church was people who loved each other, were in relationship with each other, and were just trying their best to follow this person, Jesus? And I go, that sounds fantastic. And he kept just listing little questions like that. And by the end of it, I was like, I know what you're doing. You're trying to get me back into this thing. And I said, but it doesn't work that way. I've seen it up close. To be on staff at a church is one of the most stressful jobs in America, statistically speaking, year after year. And I'm like, I was up close to it, and the damage that can happen when you open yourself up and try to give to people, it's just died. And so a few months go by, and then Chris goes, hey man, I'm going to start a church. I want you to be a part of it and do the music. And I was like, that's the worst idea ever. It really is. Because I was in this middle of this arc that was not. I was a bad idea to stick in front of people, is what I'm saying. It didn't make any sense at all. And he goes, no, you just need to sit with it for a little bit, and you're the guy. And here was what a catalyst for him starting the thing. It's Waco in the South again, Bible Belt, Christian University. Baylor done a survey of their student population and found out that there's about 14,000 in undergrad at the time, and found out that over half of the students never stepped foot in church their entire stay at school, which is pretty astounding. And that's obviously not a local trend. It's as you get towards the edges of things on the east and west coast and up north, like up here, it's much more prevalent. There's this mass exodus that happens in the collegiate years, and that to me was compelling because I was at the time in those numbers, and he's like, well, I just want to carve out a space where we can ask the difficult questions, not have dogma kind of run the thing, and just be in relationship, man, and try to follow this person, Jesus. Because again, he's saying, I don't think we've given up on this person that's so compelling that we read about in Scripture. I think it's just we have some institutional baggage that maybe we can set aside. Maybe we could be a place that helps people put their bags down. And I'm going, I would love to. And so it's like, well, let's be a part of the journey then. So we get going, and about 2 years into it, I had this moment where sitting in the same apartment deal, and my door's open, and there's a friend of mine that lived around the corner, and he had a similar life story as I did. Grew up in the church, but he hadn't stepped foot in church since he got there. But we shared music. We had music in common, hung out all the time, and all we talked about was music, it seemed like. And at this moment, he was from Charlottesville, Virginia, and Dave Matthews was just kind of blowing up. So he was always giving me these little bootleg tapes and stuff, and it was wonderful, our relationship, but the music was at the bottom of it. And so I had just been to the local Christian bookstore and spent all of our church budget for music to try to find songs to sing on a Sunday morning. I think it was probably like $20, and so I had the little stack of CDs, and at this time, there's nothing like we have access to now. It was like you got your Maranatha, you got your Vineyard, you got your maybe Kevin Prosh or something, and so I'm trying to find things that are going to fit in this collegiate setting, and doors open. This is very cinematic in my mind. Keith walks in. He's backlit. Sun's coming. He takes a long drag off of his cigarette. Smoke curls up in the sunlight, and he exhales. And then he says, "What the?" And a very long string of colorful modifiers is that, and then disappears. And there's just this smoke lingering in the sunshine, and it was this pivotal moment for me. I thought, "You're right," and why can't I know Keith? I know what moves us. Music moves us in a way we can't hardly help, and it gets to the bottom things in the human that are just, it's such a powerful thing, and I know what moves us, and this is who I'm supposed to be finding voice for, and so why don't I try to say something on our behalf, say something is organic and local, and because we're already connecting things to history and pulling songs from back. Why can't we say something that's about our experience of God together in relationship that reflects our story? And so I thought, well, let's give it a shot. So Jack Parker, one of the members of what would soon to be known as David Crowder Band. I've known him forever. He actually taught me how to play guitar and so forth, and I've got too many stories about bugging him to death. But I said, hey, I think I'd like to try to write something original and say something about what's going on and how our experience of God, or reflect the experience of God we have together as a community. And so we get going on something. He gets a little idea started, and hands it off to me. And I think I probably totally ruined what he had, and decided we should do this. And then so I remember the night before, I couldn't sleep. I was just like, this is a terrible idea, because I don't know about you guys, but I am terrified of this position. We're putting words in the mouths of people, shaping how they think about God, how we think about each other, how we think about our relationship to the world, and we're using music. That's just wrong. And so it's a terrifying thing. And then to say it on your behalf or say it from your insides, it gets scarier. And there's just the responsibility there is not to be underestimated. So I can't sleep, and I'm talking to my roommate, who is the guy I grew up with, whose daddy was the music director back home in Texarkana. And so I'm telling Kevin, I'm like, Kevin, I'm nervous about tomorrow, man. And he goes, why? And I go, because of the song deal. And he's like, oh, it'll be fine. So the next morning we get there and we do the song. And I grab Kevin afterwards. I go, what do you think, man? How do you think it went? And he goes, what? And I go, I love you, man. He goes, oh, God, that was horrible. It's like 3 chords over and over, and you're saying the same words over and over. I said, it's not even a song, really. You know that, right? And right. And so I punched him in the throat right then, and I didn't. I'm a pacifist, but in my mind I did, and so I guess according to Jesus, I really did. So luckily, we didn't stop. That was actually the song that led me to this fella named Louis Giglio. I got a phone call from Louis, and he says, hey, man, I used to be in Waco. I was like, I know. And he's like, I'm going to start this thing. We're going to do this little gathering down in Austin, Texas called Passion, and we would like to, some of your songs have found their way into our stream of things, and we'd like to record them live. Would you be okay with this? And I was like, it sounds wonderful. That's great. And we found a similar heartbeat in each other in that moment for that collegiate moment of life where that things are so pivotal. You go either direction. Me, having experienced it, knowing, man, my life, who knows? And so we developed a friendship, and I remember sitting across a table from him at some point. We were up in Fort Worth shortly after this thing had happened, or the Passion thing had happened, and we're having lunch, and I'm talking about UBC this, UBC that. That's the church that was part of the start. And hey, how long does this go? I feel very verbose right now. Till what? Them was fighting words. What? 25 more minutes. Oh my word! Speed it up, Crowder. So we're sitting across the table from each other, and I'm doing UBC this, UBC that, and he looks at me, and at some point he goes, "You know these aren't your songs, right?" And I went, "Oh man, here he goes. He's gonna do his little Louis Gigolo thing where he says something, and then your whole life's messed up." So I go, "Yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand." And he says, "So have you thought about maybe your responsibility to them? That maybe there are people that live outside of Waco, Texas, that have a similar story, similar experience, that these things would fit into their chest in a way that's very natural. And maybe you should think about your responsibility outside of the four walls of your little church in Waco." And I thought I had him because I was like, "Well, that sounds great, but we're a little college church. We don't have a budget, and we can't, go make a record or anything like that." And he goes, "Well, how about me and Shelly, his wife, throw money in the middle of this relationship and see if we can still be friends at the end of the day?" And so they paid for us to go down to Austin, Texas, and record a record. And then these songs started trickling out. And so then things got a little complicated because these streams were sort of two different tributaries. One is in the middle of church culture, and the other is almost a collection of people who were turned upside down by that stream, And so I found my feet in two different tributaries of the same stream, and I felt like we needed to do something that could serve both. And so we formed a little outfit, wound up with Louie and Shelly funding a label, and the Crowder Band ran around the planet for about 12 years trying to carry these songs as delicately as we could and serve the church in a way that people that felt similar to the way we were formed would at least have access to these things. And it was absolutely wonderful. But when we get to the end of our second record contract, and we all sat down like we did the first time we got through with the first contract. We said, does this feel like what we're supposed to be doing? Does everybody still feel this sense, this compelling in our chest that this is where we're supposed to be? And unlike the first round, it was like, I don't know, let's sit with it for a little bit. And so we get back together, and sure enough, we're like, no, this is the end of that, which on paper makes no sense. And this is the thing I like most about my experience with the Crowder Band, is that its end, I think, is one of the ways we carried the thing most delicately, because we've got guys that have families. It's a great career. I mean, you spend your whole time as a band trying to build what's known as momentum, and we really had reached the top of what we were. I mean, it just was a climb. Every record did a little better than the last one, and then we released the last one, and it winds up, it's a mass, for crying out loud. A Requiem Mass winds up number 2 in the world behind Adele. That's crazy talk, That's what you've spent 12 years trying to do, is impact culture in some way and say something that you feel like is compelling as far as the story of God goes, and it doesn't make sense on paper, but the beautiful thing about the kingdom is it's all upside down, as we know, and what culture maybe defines as successful is not what we as a people of faith define as successful. It's being your foot falling where you feel like God is going to be using you most. And it may not look like number 2 in the world. It may look like something else, but the thing that makes your chest swell is when you know you're where you're supposed to be, and that you're so anyway, things ended, and I took a hiatus. I actually stepped down from the church. I'd been there 16 years at that point, and just needed to breathe to find out what in the world's next. And so I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, to be a part of the Passion City thing, which is a church that Chris Tomlin leads at, and Louis is the pastor of. I'm not leading anything. I just am back on the other side, and it's just been absolutely beautiful. It's almost like I'm being reformed in terms of how I experience music in a church or a corporate setting, and so anyway, that's where I am currently. I've got a new little collection of friends I've been running around with, and it's almost a 180 from where I was. Computers have been banned from the stage. It's crazy talk, I know. Very traditional instrumentation, upright bass, drums, fiddle, cello, a couple of guys that play all manner of things, dobro and such banjo, mandolin. I can't think of all of them. I've never seen no guitar. No, that's got to have power, so that don't work. Yeah, there's like requirements. If you can't sit on the front porch with it, it can't be on stage. So. So anyway, now we have probably 5 minutes for us to have a conversation with each other. So that's really my story, my arc, and it's disappointing because I thought it was a lot longer than this, Jay. I should have probably asked before coming up here. I would have edited. There's a fine fellow back in the back with a microphone. Could we just raise hands and then I'll choose who I like best, and that won't be awkward. And that was just for context, so now we can ask one question and leave, I guess. What a useless workshop. Hey, but it was good chatting, hanging out with each other. Do we have a question? Yeah, okay, because I was going to say I'm not worried by silence. Yes, sir. What's your name, by the way?
Don.
Don. Pleasure to meet you, Don. I'm David.
Thank you. So how do you convince people in the Northwest to allow mandolins on stage?
Play one? I mean, gee. I would think, really, that's not a cool thing up here? Well, shoot. No, here's what I like about the really, you can't just tell me? Oh, 15 to 20 minutes, thank you. So this traditional instrumentation, the reason I got it in my insides is when we were with Crowder Band, we several records back got stuck on this bluegrass thing. I heard Ralph Stanley for the first time, and it just I just crawled up on the floor and wept, I think, and then I wrote him in for president that year too, but that stream of music, the bluegrass stream of music. It's got its roots. We know it best from the Appalachians, but it came over from Scotland. These people coming to the Appalachians from Scotland and Ireland, and then you have this, part of Black history intersects with this. Banjo comes from slave song. I mean, each part. These folks were fleeing oppression, and they come to the United States, and then they're in Appalachians, and it's a hard life, and then you've got this other intersection where it's coming from a even harder existence, where it's, your whole life's just boll weevils and dust, it feels like, and so you start singing, and it's like you sing yourself out of the present. What they were doing, these songs, it was like the only hope they had was something outside of what their experience was now. So they looked at this future hope, and they basically sang themselves into it. Even like the Black slave songs were oftentimes literal instructions of how to get to the Underground Railroad, or so they could be singing, talking about where we're going, and it's someplace that's out of here. And that's what we do as a church, is we have music in the middle of us, and it's like we sing ourselves into a future hope. We say words that may not be true right now, but there's hope in them. And so I got stuck on that idea, and think it's also so communal, because what you do is you'd sit around with these people you lived life with and shared that bleakness and also shared that joy, and you sang together, and you didn't need anything other than each other, and that's just, to me, a beautiful idea, because that, again, is part of what we're trying to do in terms of forming these institutions is allow community and life to happen and relationship to happen. And to me, this type of music reflects that very well. Now, granted, I'll say the computers will be back on stage in a year or so. I can't help it. I like that dance music. And so I don't know how that's going to work out. We'll see. Sorry, next question. So the mantle is not cool up here. That's good to know. Yes, do we? Thank you, Max.
What worries you about church music today?
You know, I don't really worry that much about anything. So, except, well, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. I worry about writing songs and stuff, and getting massages. But I think it's always a pendulum swing. Me and some friends were talking about this last night. You know, even philosophy, theology, it's always very reactionary. You know, and I think art a lot of times is the antithesis, or the people on the front of it that seem to create something that's new coming, seem to be reacting against whatever's happening in life. Like we have a world war, and suddenly the music is 1, 4, and 5 again. It's like it's a simplifying, and church music's always been the same way. I think we've just been stuck in a Brit pop mode for a while. Like it's in recent history, it's like we suddenly got a praise chorus in the middle of a service. You know, it was like, oh my goodness, we're doing something. And then it develops a little bit further in the pop song sort of. It's like, oh, we got inklings of a pop song in this thing, and then we discover Brit rock, and it's been amazing ever since. And but it's very simple. You know, all of us. That's why we can learn songs in about 15 minutes before the service, and we got your 1, 4, 5, and throw in a little up 6, and we're good. And I feel like what I keep encountering is that there's this want or need for a broader expression that tells more of what our experience of life is, where there's dissonance. I mean, even our Western scale is so limited. You've got all of the think about it. You've got the whole range of frequency that the human can hear, and we limit it to a very few number of frequencies, given that they're infinitely dividable, right? So it's like, what accounts for the cry of a baby or laughter, or there's a note. You've got to figure out a melody structure and things to go around it, and I feel like there's a need for the church to accommodate the perceived chaos that we experience in life. And that means that, so if I were to worry, I would worry that we don't have people being trained that are going to be able to do that, because now we don't really need academic schooling for learning how to sit and play 4 chords on a guitar, right? So the people that would be able to say that are people who are going to be trained in music that's broad enough to accommodate something outside of this. Anyway, so that would be my only, if I was going to be afraid of something. But it swings back and forth. It'll take care of itself, so what do we care? All right, yes. I missed your name, by the way. Jason, pleasure to meet you, Jason. Yes.
I had just recently heard about when the Giants won the World Series. The pitcher was saying that when he was a kid, he always dreamed.
This is an athletic sporting group?
Yes.
All right.
The pitcher always dreamed of winning the World Series. So you, as a musician, I know that you guys won a Grammy. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Oh, that's not correct? But you were nominated?
Are you trying to rub something in and you're trying to get sideways? What's the deal?
No, but so...
I don't see your point.
So just getting up to the number 2 behind Adele, how did it make you feel just from where you were?
I'll tell you this, it'll make me watch the Olympics very differently.
Oh.
That makes no sense. No, you know how you're always brought up as like, hey man, ain't no winner but the first one, and I tell you, that silver medal feels great. Yeah, that diver gets that silver medal. You're like, oh, that feels wonderful. Yeah, I know it felt fantastic. I don't know how to describe my feelings further than that. I'm not good at introspection. It's not my thing. Sorry. That's about all I can do. It felt great. Sort of like eating pie. What's the? Yeah, that's convenient. Let's do that.
I'm curious to know that first. I'm Brian.
Thank you.
All right. I'm curious to know that first song, the 3-chord song. Which song was that? You mentioned.
Oh, it's You Alone. You are alone. I can't remember it. Something like that. But you.
That's
Yeah,
one
I
of my
remember.
favorite off that Passion.
Oh, brilliant.
I recently had an opportunity to lead it. Just it's been about
Amazing.
15, 17 years.
Really.
Love that song. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, hey, that too feels fantastic. Almost as good as silver medal. Right here. Can you get down? Oh, this will be like passing the communion plate.
Hi, I'm Janine.
Hi, Janine.
So, as your career was taking off, how did you stay humble and keep it
have
with
you
Christ?
seen me?
No, I just want to know, did you lose your salvation, or how did you rein it in? Because you got pretty famous. You are pretty famous.
Well, that's relatively speaking, right? I mean, no, really, it's like I don't know. I don't have any idea, honestly. I think if I were to try to explain humility, that would just get me in trouble, right? So there's no good answer there. But I can say having people around you that are open and real, like if you have an agreement with each other, I don't feel like an individual. I don't want to feel like an individual, even though our whole culture says from the moment we start breathing here in America that you are an individual. Pull yourself up. But I think the gospel's about relationship. It's about being in relationships that are transformative, and that takes a whole lot in a human to peel back a layer, because we're so fragile and we posture so much stuff, and we want to present to our peers a version of ourselves that would be agreeable. And if you have an agreement with each other and this interest in trying to speak into each other's lives that point to the darker stuff and cause you to want to be more like this person, Jesus, I think that's when you got a shot at it. But no, I'm as prideful as the next person. I think I'm awesome, so it probably didn't work. Being a part of community, that's the thing, because you rub up against each other and you fail, and music or platform or records that doesn't. There's no satisfaction. There's no depth to that at all, So when you realize that those things are empty, and that's not what the point is, and you don't. And maybe it's that I didn't even mean to do this, and so I think it's. Relationship is probably what saved me. Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh. Can you throw that to her? What? Everybody, this is Christian Pascal. Everybody say hi, Christian. Oh, well, I'm sorry. You got robbed. Interception. No, it's great. Oh, you're doing a pass around. Oh, y'all are doing like a group thing where you're all working together. I'm getting confused.
Hi, I'm Joey.
Hi,
I had a
Joey.
question.
We
What
got it.
advice would you give? You said you went to music school, didn't have a good experience, or it wasn't fun, or whatever.
Yeah, I was not being genuine there. But go ahead.
What advice would you give to somebody who was looking to work their way into this business from the ground up?
Tune your guitar would be a start. Honestly, I'm just thinking about me personally. I can't ever figure out which thing to step on down there. And what those lights do, they're pretty though. I'm going to sound redundant, but I think that God puts us in specific environments for a reason. And if there's this thing inside of you that you feel like I'm gifted in this way. So I would attempt to broaden those gifts to whatever ability level you can. You know, it takes work, so be willing to work and better your gifting, and invest in a local community of people. So that's the starting place, and I feel like so many people, including myself, are like, well, why is that guy doing this and able to do that when that song sucks? You know, it's like, so we have this comparative mentality, and who knows why God chooses to elevate some people in a public sense and doesn't someone else who's far more talented and brilliant at putting words together. And I just think we get in trouble if that thing starts turning the wrong direction inside of us. So I would say protecting yourself from that too, which again be up to your choices with relationships and how you're approaching them, I think. But I don't know. I have no idea how this happened other than me letting go of some stuff, maybe. That's all I can say. So I'm sorry, that's terrible advice. I'm sure they got other workshops that'll tell you what to do. Did you get that? Yes. Sorry, Joey. I don't know why they let me do this.
My name is Ilda, and I
Say that again?
Ilda.
I'm not
Ilda.
gonna.
Ilda. It's like Hilda, but the H is silent.
Yeah,
Ilda.
see, I thought it had more letters in there than I could hear.
You can say Ilda if you like. It's all good. I have to repeat it to a lot of people. What's your
Okay.
name? David? No, David. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so my
It
question.
sounds so much prettier when you say it like that.
Aw.
David?
So my question for you is, I know you talk a lot about relationships. So how do you feel having such a successful career has affected your relationships?
That's great. It's
whether-
it's.
Whether I'm not. Whether.
Hey,
Sorry. Whether in a negative or positive way, and what would you do differently or advise differently for someone who's pursuing a career in music and has a family or something like that? Do you want me to repeat the question?
man, say what was your name again? It's like, man. I was following you on the front
So,
end of it. Now,
How did the
yes,
successes-
it does change things, and in fact, just to be really open and honest about this, because all the rest of this I've just been bull crapping. So that was I just said bull crapping. It was recorded, and now I did it twice. I don't even know what. What was the question again? I'm kidding. No, so what I love to do, and this is why I think relationships, the people that were on the exterior circles that I would still call close friends, but we're not, in my day-to-day, and we didn't have this agreement with each other that, we're not really in each other's space all that much, and it's quick. Birds, hello. It's very easy to spot when someone would like to be around you because of this thing, or resents you because of this thing, and so I think I've done a good job of finding safe places. Like there's this little restaurant thing across the street where I am in Atlanta now that I go to, because no one. I walked in and was there for almost a year, and nobody had any idea. They knew I was you're the Christian guy, or now aren't you a pastor somewhere or something, or what's your that about that? Because I just wouldn't talk about the platform element. We just talk about other things, life and Jesus, and it didn't have anything to do with what was going on outside there. Where are you headed this week? Well, I told them I trained penguins is what I did, really. And no, but I think I like having a safe place where you've allowed just the ability to have folks treat you just because they know you as David, and you're the guy that I love playing Golden Tee with, that kind of thing, or Buck Hunter, and that helps a lot for you to steady yourself when you feel these moments where humans are just being humans, and of course it changes relationships, and so I don't fault anybody. I just I think I've done a good job of protecting myself. So close friends that don't care about that and don't care what you do or what your career path is or what your platform looks like, and then also finding spaces and environments where you can just exhale and don't have any of that pressure or where you're editing or filtering everything that's happening in a conversation, where it's just like you're hanging out. That to me has been wonderful. Yeah, in both places I was able to do that a bit. Yeah, and we're probably about the end of things, huh? Yeah. No, we ain't said stop, so yes, sir.
First of all, I really
Hard
appreciate
question.
the beard growth.
Thank you,
Looks
sir.
great.
I don't feel like I'm trying much.
It's awesome.
It just keeps,
So,
I just keep making more of it, and I don't really. Not a lot of thought in.
I have a
it.
couple quick questions. My name's Andrew Platter. Hello.
Hi, Andrew Platter.
Are you going to go see the new Hobbit movie coming out?
I plan to.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that question. And then
Okay.
I just wondered if you could explain a little bit of your songwriting process, if
no.
that exists, or if it's. I just thought that would be a fun
I thought we were
question.
gonna get out of here with y'all just thinking I'm slightly crazy. Now it's gonna be okay. I try to. I don't know how to explain this in a way that. So there are the three best analogies I can think of. I'm a very inspirationally driven writer, so it's like if I were to try to carve out like every Wednesday I'm gonna sit down from 10 to 11. No, I'm not up by then, but like 12 to 1. They're awful songs. They're just terrible songs. So it feels like a thing floats to me, and then you just gotta be ready to sort of document it or remember it or whatever. And also I feel like since I can't really do that intentionally, the way I've worked at it is read a lot, listen to a lot, watch a lot, just try to put things in, like pay attention to how words stick around and what moves a human is when you put the words together, and work on so that when the moment floats to me, you've got colors to use. I guess that's the best way to say it. But the moment, the best way I can describe. There's three ways, I think. One is it's like listening to a conversation on the other side of a wall, and you can kind of make out some of the sibilants and consonants, and the only cleverness it feels like is figuring out what the conversation might be about. And then so that doesn't work. The other is like it feels like climbing down a ladder at night, and so you kind of just, as things start forming, you slowly check that next rung, make sure it's stable, and then you can make the next step. So it feels like this process of putting a puzzle together, or trying to find your way down a ladder without falling. And that one don't work either. So the other that to me feels the most right is if you're like washing dishes in the sink and like a soap bubble pops up. And it looks so delicate as it floats in the air there, but you're scared to look at it directly because it might pop or blow away or something. So you just sit there real still, not staring at it, and let it float your direction, That one's the best one. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be the highest selling workshop session they have. So much information we can take back home and use. One more. Girl next to Max. Oh, you're sitting down. Oh, hello.
Hi, my name's Valen.
Valen?
Yeah, like Valentine, without the time.
Well, aren't your parents the sweetest? I mean, that's amazing.
I was actually named after a bus, but okay. Okay, so I'm glad I can make your day.
All
Okay,
right.
so if you didn't become famous, what kind of job or occupation would you have chosen? Bad question?
No, well, just the way it was formed was interesting. No, if I wasn't doing this, is it hands down? Well, now, see, part of the problem is if we hadn't done this church thing, I'd probably be in Texarkana selling insurance. That sounds like a great idea. No, I know without a doubt, and this is the honest truth, I would drive semi-tractor trailers for a living. Yeah, I would stare at that road and those lines coming at me, and I'd be the cargo of America be on my backside, and I'd just be making this country run. So that'd be what I'd do. That'd be what I'd do. Well, I think that means we're out. I really appreciate you guys being in the room with me, and I'll try harder next time. And we'll see you maybe tonight. So thank you, guys.